Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials. Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Sunday the 24th of October. Just making my way down to the land, and as always, not quite sure what we're going to get done today, but let's find out. Well, here we are down on the land. It's not too bad a morning, to be fair. It's a bit of a flying visit. I've been busy doing some domestic stuff this morning, and I've got a few more bits to do. Look at that, how pretty is that, look? Little mushrooms. Sorry, I digress. Yeah, I've got a few more bits to do this afternoon, so it is literally a flying visit. Just coming down to check on the chickens. The sun is teasing behind those clouds over there. Is that blurry or is that not? I don't know. But all these black clouds are moving in, and I can feel in the air it is just spitting a little bit with rain. So I'll get myself in, opened up, and sort the chickens out. Might have a cheeky cup of coffee. I've not had one for a while. And I'll catch up with you shortly. Well, first things first, as usual, sort the chickens out. It's actually started raining now. Don't know if you'll hear it on the roof here, but it has. So I'm going to get myself in the coop, see what eggs we've got. I have got some greenery for them as well. It is the weekend after all. So let's take a little look in the coop and see what we've got. There's that fresh bedding from yesterday. They've still managed to make a mess though on here. Buggers. I'll pull that off. And here we go, we've got some eggs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, they're still warm. That's definitely a fresh production. Nothing, not expecting anything, nothing. Excellent, let's get in the cabin. Have a little chat. Well, here we are, it's Sunday already. The weekend surely does fly by. It's certainly flying by for me. Lots of domestic chores that I've got to be doing this weekend, so particularly today I've been running backwards and forwards, a bit like a yo-yo this morning. I've got a few more things to do this afternoon, so it'll be a very brief visit to the land today. As always, got to come down and make sure the chickens are fine and just check that everything else is okay with the cabin and the land. I've got some greenery to dish out when I finish this cabin chat, so that'll keep the chickens happy. I suspect they won't be hanging around outside too much today because that rain has started, and looking at the sky I can see through the garden room it's looking very black on the horizon. And indeed, that segues nicely into today's cabin chat. What's coming on the horizon? There are definitely some dark clouds. Thank you to everyone who's commented already on yesterday's video. Bit of an eclectic mix in yesterday's video. And today, I thought I'd just pull out one of those. I think it was Paul that commented. I'd mentioned something about debt and trying to get out of debt as part of your longer term preparations, and he made some valid points in the comments, so feel free to have a little scroll back through those and see what it is that he was talking about. But really, these dark clouds on the horizon I've touched a number of times over, well, quite a few months now, as to the state of the economy. And apart from inflation, which people are starting to wake up and take notice of, and certainly the media has picked up, it's gone awfully quiet when it comes to news about the economy in general, and the potential for a crash, a financial crash. There are lots of reasons as to why there might be one coming. Well, I don't think it's a case of might, I'm pretty sure, 99.9% sure that there will be a crash, certainly within the next 6 months. When you look back at COVID, not just here in the UK but globally, you might remember that governments started throwing money at the problem, and that money wasn't money that they had sitting in a bank account somewhere just waiting for them to spend. That's money that they created out of thin air. They literally just started up the printing presses and started printing loads and loads and loads of pounds, euros, dollars, whatever the currency was in that country. Records are extremely sketchy and hard to come by as to how much money has been printed. But certainly over the last 15-20 years, it wouldn't be unfair of me to say that governments around the world have printed more money than's ever been created before in the whole lifetime of that country. The numbers are absolutely staggering. We're not talking about millions or thousands of millions, so billions, but we're talking about billions and trillions of pounds, dollars, euros, whatever it is. Now, that's great. It adds to the debt pile of the country, and debt for the country is at record levels, whether that's obvious debt, such as the country's borrowed £1 billion from another country, or from the general financial markets by issuing bonds and such like. There's also what's known as hidden debt. Things like pension provisions. So the money that people pay into their pension, whether that's normally through taxation for governments. Here in the UK, it's something called national insurance, which is a secondary tax on income. So you'll get paid your salary, income tax will be taken off to go and fund the government, and then another percentage will be taken off, allegedly to fund welfare, so the health service, unemployment benefits, pensions, state pensions. And those figures are not enough to fund the current liabilities. So if they take £1 billion from people to fund the health service, it actually costs more than £1 billion. And the same with pensions. They're paying out more every year than they're actually taking in. So it's a hidden debt. And at some point, governments have to address that problem. The borrowing can only go on for so long before eventually, it's a bit like your bank manager. If you get a loan, they won't have too much of an issue. If you get 2 loans or 3 loans or an extra credit card, eventually your bank manager is going to say, whoa, just a minute, you're not earning enough to fund your debt liability. And it is the same with governments. They have a little bit more flexibility than you and I would, but at some point the music stops and it's game over. And that normally results in a big recession, hyperinflation, or the whole country just stopping dead in its tracks because the government no longer has any money to pay for all of the normal services that you would expect. So things like schools, hospitals, the police, the military, the ambulance service, the health service, so on and so forth. All of these great services that government provides on behalf of its citizens. So debt is a major problem. And over the last, certainly through COVID, where record amounts were borrowed and thrown at the problem, but over recent decades, the amount of debt that countries are taking on has exponentially increased. So much so that most of the Western countries, including the UK, are actually now in debt more than the entire value of the economy. So if your economy is worth £2 trillion per year, the government owes 1.2 trillion. I think the UK is currently running at about debt of 124% of GDP, gross domestic product. So it's not sustainable. And normally you'll reach a tipping point and everything collapses. The housing market, the stock market, it all collapses, and the government will normally, in order to get out of this, devalue their currency. So you could wake up one morning, were this to happen, and your £100 in the bank is now worth £75 or £50 or even £25, or in the worst case scenario, nothing at all. So it is a real problem issue, and it's something that's been ignored and ignored and ignored for a long time now. So when I talk about getting out of debt, it's for the same reason as government. At some point, if something were to go wrong, maybe you lose your job, or maybe wages were cut, or your partner loses their job and your household income suddenly takes a hit, you might find yourself in that position where you're no longer able to finance your debt. So whereas before, if you had outgoings of, I don't know, say you were paying off a credit card at £100 a month, if your income was to take a hit and you couldn't afford that £100 a month, clearly the person that loaned you that money is going to come looking for it in one way, shape, form or another. So I always do encourage people to try and run with as little debt as possible. Ideally, no debt, and you're saving up for things. Granted, I fully understand, because I've done it myself, you'll be trundling along quite happily, then all of a sudden something breaks, the car breaks down or the washing machine breaks down, and you go to your bank account and find that you don't have £400 for a new washing machine that month. So the temptation there is to get out the credit card or to take a loan out. So yeah, I totally get it. I've been there, I've done that a million times, and so has pretty much everybody else. The reason I urge caution now is because the economy of the country, and indeed the world, is looking extremely fragile, and it wouldn't take much to tip it over the edge and we go into a full-blown global financial crisis. So the more prepared you are for that, and the more ability you have to live within your means, then the better for you and your family. Less strain, less pressure, less anxiety. There are a lot of things other than the financial crash that could have an impact, and I've talked about a few of these over recent videos, so it's worth just highlighting those again since we're on the subject of personal finance, debt, so on and so forth. Here in the UK, the government recently announced that it was going to increase tax. Never a popular thing for governments to do, and if they need to raise extra money, which they definitely do to finance their own debt, then taxation really is the only method that they have to raise extra income. So they've recently put an increase on what we call national insurance, which, as I said earlier, is a thing, it's a secondary tax, which is designed to fund things like the health service, welfare payments, pensions. It never has been used exclusively for that, it's just been another pot of money that government can dip into, but in theory that's what it's there for. So off the back of the COVID crisis, they've decided to increase national insurance contributions. So that's a hit to your personal finance, assuming that you're working, of course, here in the UK, that you're going to experience over the coming months. It's something that you haven't budgeted for long term because it didn't exist. This extra tax wasn't there before. So that's something to think about. Inflation, the price of things going up in the shops, definitely going up bigger than the government says. And again, it's something that when you were doing your budgeting back at the start of the year, you couldn't really have forecast. You wouldn't know that suddenly your bag of apples was going to go up by 10%, and incrementally another 10% and another 10% as we go through this year and into next year. That's how inflation works. It carries on incrementally. It doesn't just affect you at one particular time. It continues. We've looked at the cost of energy prices going up. That's been big news over the last few months. And again, that's going to continue. We already know that we've had price rises this year, and we know that already for sure in April next year there's going to be another big increase as the government cap on pricing is raised so that the energy companies can increase their bills accordingly. And this energy crisis hasn't gone away. So although we know that in April there's going to be another big price hike, again, like inflation, it's going to carry on exponentially until such time as the market corrects, and nobody really knows when that will be. Fuel for vehicles, I've talked about that to death. Indeed, I mentioned it just yesterday, is going up. All of these things, when you were working out how much credit or debt you could take on back at the start of the year, or maybe even last year, are things that you won't have been able to realistically foresee. So I guess the message really is that now you can foresee these things, and you know that they're coming, and even further down the line, you know that bigger increases are coming. I've talked before in the video about plans to stop gas-fired boilers and replace them with hydrogen or electric or whatever. That's going to have a massive impact on people's budgets. The same with this change to electric vehicles forecast for 2030. Again, that's going to have a massive impact on people's budgets. So it's really worth taking the time now to look a little bit forward into the future and understand that all of these increases are going to come. We know they're coming, it's just a case of how quickly each of those hit in succession. So it's worth taking a look at your finances and just trying to work out how dangerous are your finances right now, and be realistic about it. Don't just kind of go, oh, we'll find a way through. That's probably the worst thing that anybody can do is, oh, we'll find a way through. It's worth looking now, taking into account that there are definite price hikes on a wide range of things coming in the short to mid-term future. And they are coming, we know about them already. And then on top of that, try and factor in, well, what if something else goes wrong? What if there's another COVID lockdown? That's something that's been gently talked about and suggested in the media by government as we head towards Christmas. What if that did happen and we had a repeat of 2020 going into 2022 with the massive hit on the economy, the massive hit on jobs, and the massive hit on personal freedoms and finances? So I mentioned that for a reason. It's not a preach to people. I am certainly no holier than the next person, particularly when it comes to finance. I've been in dire straits more than once through my lifetime. I've seen also, because of the age I am, I've seen what happens when inflation gets out of control. I can remember back in the 1970s when inflation went up through the roof to 15, 16, 17%, when bank interest rates on loans and other forms of credit, such as mortgages, were in the high teens and indeed early 20%. Just because we haven't seen it over the last 10, 15 years doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and doesn't mean that it can't come back and bite everybody on the backside. It can. Central banks have quietly been pushing out little messages saying, we're looking at the potential. It's a bit like that inflation that was transitory. We're looking at the potential for interest rate increases. But don't worry, it'll only be 0.25%. Maybe we might need another one next year of another 0.25%. It doesn't matter to the central banks. If the only way that they can bail themselves out of all of the debt pile that they've accrued is by banging up interest rates, and for governments to start cutting back on welfare services, they will do it because it doesn't impact them. They're rich already. They have their financial security. They've got everything in place. They don't need to worry. Whereas you and I, the people at the other end of the spectrum, shall we say, we are more precarious. We are reliant on other people for income, whether that's government welfare or whether that's going out to work. It's not within our gift. At any given point in time, other people can impact us by taking away our job or our ability to work, by imposing some new law or some new tax. So we can't physically do anything ourselves other than try and plan ahead a little bit. So I know it's a bit of a dry subject, and it's not a particularly nice or glamorous subject, which is probably why I don't mention it very much. But I can see the writing on the wall, and I can see big changes coming, and I can certainly see a big hit financially for everybody in the not too distant future. whether that's job insecurity, whether it's the rising inflation, whether it's the rising and new taxation, or whether it's government laws that are changing, particularly over the next few years, which will have a direct financial impact on me and you and pretty much everybody else. So I can see them coming, and I guess really I'm just trying to alert other people that might not have seen these and be aware of these things. So yeah, bit of a dry subject, apologise for that in advance. But it is worth your time to sit and seriously consider and to do whatever you can to protect yourself, whether that's reducing your spending or perhaps not spending quite so much on non-essentials or luxury items, or whether that's putting a little bit more aside in savings as a buffer so that if something does break and you do need a new washing machine or a car repair bill, that you have that money rather than borrowing it. These days of 1 or 2% interest rates on loans are pretty much dead. They are going to be very quickly replaced with higher interest rates. So please don't leverage yourself to death by taking out and maxing your credit cards or by remortgaging your house to pay for a holiday or a new car. Please don't do that. It will just expose you to other people who can impact on your finances. Anyway, having said all of that, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you are staying safe and well and enjoying your weekend. Hope you are all getting up to something nice this weekend. I'm going to give the chickens something nice, a bit of greenery, and try and get away from here before the heavens truly do open and I get very wet. There are a few videos planned for this week. Again, it's time. My biggest enemy, really, apart from people, is time. I just don't know where it all goes. There's always something else that's acting as a distraction from me from pumping out these videos, which is why some of them might appear to be a little bit rushed over the coming few weeks. I have got an awful lot going on in the background, but I'm trying to do my best to put out as much as I can. Remember, it's not just about me, it's about you guys out there who watch these. So please do feel free to comment, good, bad or indifferent. Have a little bit of activity on the channel, give a few thumbs up, shares and likes. And when you're commenting, bear in mind there are lots of other people out there that might not be as advanced in their preparedness journey as you are. So if you do see any questions crop up, and I know a lot of you do this already, so thank you for it. If questions do crop up and you have an answer to that or a suggestion, pop it in the comments section. This channel is here to help other people and to try and increase awareness, if you like, of preparedness and self-sufficiency, to try and get as many people as possible thinking about it and doing something about it to get them away from that dependency that the government would just love everybody to have. Government isn't the business of serving government. They want everybody under control so that they can do whatever they want to make their life richer and more fulfilling. Apart from the odd one, literally, odd one, politicians are there for themselves and their friends in business. They're not there for me and you. So do bear that in mind as you watch them on the TV. Don't know if you can hear that, but heavens are opening. I'm going to run out quickly with the greenery for the chickens, get this coffee down me, and I'll catch up with you all in the next video. Well, there we go, there's the greenery, and as usual, little red chickens, they know where they're best off, and that's with Daddy, because he always gives them a little handheld treat, all for themselves. They don't have to scrabble around and fight the other ones. They just come here and it's a little self-service buffet, look. That rain's coming down now, so I'm going to have to get myself off. Chicken keeps looking up, wondering what I'm doing, talking to this box that I'm holding. Are you plucking it off and saving it on the floor? What's this? I am going to lose a finger one day. Right, let me get myself locked up before this rain comes down too much. Well, the chickens are happy pecking away at their greenery. That's it for another day and another weekend. The time really does fly by. I can hear in the distance somebody is having a shoot. Don't know if you'll pick that up or not on the video over the traffic noise. Yeah, somebody's out shooting. And quite a few of them, judging by the amount of gunfire. They've picked a bad day for it now because it's raining and it's coming down quite hard now. So let me get myself back in the car. Enjoy your weekend, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch you again. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, I welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. Bit of a dry subject today, but it's very important. Unexpected debt or unsustainable debt is the quickest way to your own personal financial crash. And I think we've got enough financial crashes going on, so it's worth just taking a look at your own situation and trying to figure out how to get yourself in the best position you can to weather the storms ahead. Do let me know what you think in the comment section below. What are you doing to try and improve your financial situation or to protect yourself from an impending crash? Let everybody know in the comment section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.